Hello everyone, today we are going to discuss a very important and interesting criticism topic, which is Marxist criticism. So as we all know from the name itself, we are aware of that it is actually propounded by Karl Marx, and we can know that he actually is of the opinion that the primary influence of life is actually economic. That means always in a particular society there will be some kind of conflict between the capitalist and the working class, and after that capitalists control the society and how the reality should be. And he is also of the opinion that literature is actually a reflection of the culture, but we should know that culture also sometimes influences literature. So that kind of way they are mutually interconnected, and we can see that capitalists become the most powerful kind of class in the society, and they can even control the art forms like literature and provide some kind of culture to the masses. So masses will be fooled, and they will think that this is actually the culture, and they will suffer unknowingly because of the bourgeois class. So that kind of idea was actually propounded by Karl Marx. So regarding Marxist criticism in detail, we will discuss in this video lecture. So before entering into Marxist criticism, you are actually supposed to know some important key terms associated with Marxist criticism. So we will discuss it one by one. So first one is capitalism. Capitalism, as we all know, is actually the economic base which values private ownership and also profit for individuals. So individual kind of freedom or belongings or assets are given more importance in capitalism, and capitalists are actually such kind of people. Then we can see laborers. Laborers are actually the people who are actually working under this capitalist. They are workers, employees, we can say as laborers. The value which the labor provides for a capitalist, that much profit is not getting back to the laborer. So that kind of way capitalists are exploiting according to Karl Marx. Then capital is another term. It is actually more connected with the employer, one who provides employment, employer or owner, or some kind of people who are actually investing and that kind of particular business. So that kind of term is called capital. Next we will come across two terms, base and superstructure. So base is actually something which is more connected with the value system of that particular time period of an individual, the thought processes of an individual. And we can see that superstructure is something which is connected with law, politics, law and order, or some kind of societal ideology, we can say. So these two kinds are actually interconnected, and base or superstructure, base determines the superstructure. That way we need to understand. Then there is an important term associated with this Marxist criticism, which is reification. So it is actually the way in which these workers or employees are actually used for commodification so that they can produce profitable products. So that method is actually called reification. Then we can see an important term called exploitation. So workers, it is more connected with these workers and employees, because whether they are paid off the value which they are doing the work. So they will be doing producing a product, and the product's value will be too high, but they are not paid well for that product. So that kind of situation, in that situation we can see that exploitation happens. So next term is also negative term called alienation. So that is actually the problems faced by the worker or employee, because we can see that sometimes the worker is made to overwork and not paid enough, and also he might not be interested in the job he is doing. So in that case he will feel alienated or not as a part of the company. That kind of feel he will get. For example, if you see that when in the earlier times we can see these people who make table, chairs, etc. But in a factory we can see that it is not, they are not making it in a full form. Just a part of the chair, they are specialized in making a part of the chair, a part of the table, so that they are not getting the fulfillment, they are not creating the whole table. So the whole process will make the table. In that case, there are more chances that the worker will get alienated. So that term we need to note under the perspective of Marxist criticism. Then we can see the term marginalization. That is also more part of the working class kind of sufferings, because working class, they are not paid off well and they are not given the enough facilities. Because of this reason they have to face marginalization, because they will be treated as lower classes of the society, and due to this reason or due to this exploitation they have to face this marginalization in the society, because they are not able to buy the enough products, enough food items or enough facilities, and because of this reason they will not have a good status in the society. That way marginalization also operates if this capitalist working class elements are actually taking place according to Karl Marx. And the last term associated with it is hegemony. So these hegemonic forces, that means politics, law and order, this police, etc., we will speak about ideological state apparatus, repressive state apparatus, etc. So in that case, actually people are actually suppressed. So we need to note that in short, Marxist criticism is something of the idea that whoever controls the means of production, that is the capitalist, they have the control over overall society. They can control the political system, they can control the economic system, and they have all the powers and all the privileges which the working class don't have. So they are actually controlling the means of production, and so that they can control the overall society. That is actually the idea of this Marxist criticism. And you should also note that there will be always a disparity that will be existing between this capitalist and the working class, because the privileges, the political and economic privileges that the capitalists enjoy in the particular society will not be enjoyed by the working class in that particular society. So there will be always a disparity that will be existing between this working class people and also the capitalist. So in the literary perspective, we need to note that this Marxist criticism is actually something which actually talks about the life of the working class, how they are actually suffering, and in literary works we can see that they will again get trapped by these capitalist elements, and finally they will have a tragic ending. They have to suffer a lot because of that. Those kind of literatures we can see. So those kind of literatures, these Marxist critics will understand and analyze and understand and draw out Marxist critical elements in that kind of literary work. So always capitalist will be some kind of an oppressor, and the working class will be a person who will be oppressed. So there are many novels or plays, like we can say for example The Invisible Man. In that a black man will suffer a lot. He is actually seen as invisible in the society because he is actually coming from an underprivileged class. Because of this reason he had to work under bourgeois class people, and he had to suffer a lot, and finally also he will see his life is actually at a very miserable state. So these kinds of elements is Marxist critics will understand and also analyze and know more about these kind of aspects in the society. And apart from that, we need to note that there are also many hidden elements in these kinds of literary works. That means they will not directly say there are kind of exploitations, but according to the situation, the readers will or the critics will analyze and interpret that this is because of the exploitation that is happening. So in Marxist critics, actually for example we can say Terry Eagleton, he will speak about this. So most of the time when we see a literary work, there are many things that are actually hidden from the readers. So these kind of elements are actually more important for Marxist critics. So Terry Eagleton is one such Marxist critic who is actually giving more emphasis on the hidden elements and the elements which are actually directly visible. And now we need to talk about base and superstructure. While we were discussing the key terms, I have already discussed regarding that. But we need to note that little bit more, because base is actually, as I have told you, it is actually the base. That means the value systems or the attitudes or belief systems of a particular individual, and superstructure is actually laws, politics, education or the art forms. So we need to note that actually the base is actually shaping the superstructure. With the values and the attitudes and the belief system, we are actually creating these kinds of systems in the society like education. So education will be connected with the values we have or the values we prevail in the society, and laws are actually shaped accordingly, and art also contains the influence of this kind of value systems. That way we need to understand. So in short, we need to note that this base is actually shaping or controlling or structuring the superstructure. So we need to note that there are three main areas of study in Marxist criticism: economic power, class conflict, and art, literature and ideology. These three things are actually mainly discussed by critics in Marxist criticism. So regarding the economic power, when we talk about, there are two types of classes in a society wherever it is. So earlier we can see the feudal lords were there and the working classes were under them and they were getting exploited. Now we can see multinational companies, they were actually exploiting the employees. So common people can only work under some kind of daily wages or some kind of salary. So with that they have to fulfill their needs and they have to work more and they will get exploited. Usually when we talk about these private companies etc., they are exploitative. So that kind of power structure is actually operating in capitalism. So here we can see that there are two types of classes. One is bourgeois class and the second one is proletariat class. So bourgeois class is actually one who owns the means of production and they will actually control these employees, and proletariat class is actually the working class people. So here commodification happens. That means this working class or the proletariats are actually used as some kind of, actually they are commodified we can say. That means they are used and they are actually made to work more than what they are paid off. That kind of situation happens in capitalist kind of situation. So we are actually understanding and analyzing the functioning of the society, and also we will also explore, the Marxist critics will also explore the elements, actually the exploitative elements prevailing in the capitalist society. And in case of Marxist criticism, we need to note that there is always a type of class conflict that prevails here between this bourgeois class and the proletariat class. Here we can see that bourgeois class's main focus is actually on the political, economic and those kinds of elements. According to that, they will manage the means of production. While working class have a different attitude, they are actually born as working classes and they are actually made to work under someone or some kind of company, and their dream is actually limited in most of the cases. But at one point of time we can see that there will be some kind of conflict that will arise when they are not provided enough wages or enough situations. So that conflict will arise, and again that sometimes that bourgeois class person can be subverted. So but again we can see that slowly the working class people will take over it, but later at some point of time in the society again some kind of group of people will arise as the bourgeois class. So again this pattern and conflict will happen. So this is an endless process according to Karl Marx, we can say, and according to Marxist critics, they will understand the society accordingly and they will have a perspective, a Marxist perspective, while analyzing the literary works, whether there is any kind of exploitation happening or whether there is kinds of bourgeois class who is actually exploiting those kind of people in the novel or the drama. So that kind of way Marxist critic will have a perspective while approaching these kinds of literary works. So we need to also know something about the division of wealth, what is happening here. So here actually the proletariat class are actually given minimum wages, and because of that only small amount of wealth is actually going to this proletariat class. But most of the profit is actually getting to the bourgeois class, and because of this reason there will be an indistribution of wealth among the society, and due to this reason amassing of wealth happens in the capitalist class. Due to this reason it can also affect the economic balance, in which more poorer people will be created. Rich will become richer and poor will become poorer. That kind of situation the society will create due to capitalism. And there is also another important factor, this art and literature. Art forms, literature, films, movies, even novels, drama, etc. They are actually controlled by this bourgeois class. They can actually impart elements which can actually control the cultural expressions of the working class people. So how a person should think, how a person should behave in a society, or how a person is made to be worked under this kind of bourgeois class people. So that way they are trained according to this art forms and these kinds of novels, etc. They can be influenced. So the powerful classes will decide what kind of literary works should be given to the common people. That way they can even control the expressions and the belief systems of the working class people. So that is also a dangerous element we can see. So Marxist critics will understand and analyze those kinds of literary works, and they will analyze the bourgeois elements in that literary work. So cultural studies plays a major role in understanding these kinds of elements, we can say. So in that manner they will analyze, and that are also closely associated with cultural studies, we should know that. And we should also note that there will be many literary works which will be also written to critique this capitalist structure, because in many of the cases the people should be made aware of the inherent dangers associated with the society, so that working class will be more conscious about themselves. That means class consciousness will be developed in the individual, so that the exploitative nature or the exploitative impact or the intensity we can reduce due to this literary work. So usually the writers will use irony, satire to critique the powerful classes of the society. So directly we can't critique because they are actually controlling the means of production, they are controlling the society, the economic, political structures. Due to this reason, very indirectly some satirical, ironical elements are to be imparted in the literary work, so that the common people will be aware of the dangers of these capitalist elements. So that kind of literary works are also available, we can see that. So that's all for today's video. We have discussed about Marxist criticism today, and I just explained regarding the important key terms, how Marxist critics will analyze a literary work and what are the main things associated with this. So it is very good if you can understand many things associated with it, because in many of the research this cultural studies is actually getting more prominent today. So it is actually a trending topic. So I hope that you understood the things regarding Marxist criticism. So we will come back with some another topic regarding literary criticism and English literature. So we will meet you again in some next video. Thank you and have a nice day.